I'm a PhD student here at Columbia in the Mind, Brain, and Behavior Institute. I work in John Cunningham and Liam Paninsky's labs, which are in the statistics department. And I'm doing a lot of work on estimating animal movement and behavioral sort of variables from raw videos. In neuroscience, a huge goal is to sort of link neural activation with actual, meaningful, rich behavior that certain animals, or as we call them, model organisms, are doing. And over the last few years, there's been a huge revolution in our field trying to use videos to actually record what the animals are doing and then use a variety of deep learning, computer vision, representation learning algorithms to try and extract information from these videos. But what was missing until this point was algorithms that are actually targeting the behavior of the animal. And when I started here, we started asking ourselves, what can we do with actual videos of animals, and what can we do with the most modern computer vision algorithms to help us with this. Pose estimation problem is one that has been studied extensively in computer vision and graphics, and is being used a lot in autonomous driving, for example, identifying pedestrians, predicting where they will go. But now the challenge that we are tackling in many other labs is we're sprinting very hard on our machine learning paper, trying to submit it to one of the big machine learning conferences, trying to polish, the proofs and the algorithm and all of that, and analyze performance. But another month could look like sitting in an actual lab with someone who is running experiments, trying to set up certain analysis pipelines with them, trying to understand maybe which new mathematical framework can explain some of their findings. So when I heard first about Pytorch Lightning, I immediately fell in love with it because everything made sense. The idea that someone would take care of all of the stuff that we were already doing, like looping over, the iterations of training the model. And then when I got into it with this pose estimation project, I really fell in love with the idea that everything here makes perfect sense. Everything we're doing in machine learning research is basically thinking about models, sometimes thinking about the inputs and outputs to these models, but we deal with these models, we refine them, we obsess about them, we write papers about them, but once we're done, the models are sort of dead. We assume someone else may use them and to do something with them. But the reality of things in academia and science, but also in industry, is that a model is only a part of some pipeline. And usually, as they say with kids, it takes a village. Here, it takes a whole company to build an app. You need DevOps engineers, and you need data engineers, and you need the researchers that do the science and machine learning engineering. So we sort of specialize into different components of the pipeline. Each is doing one thing, and we're not seeing the big picture. And in science, often it's very rare to see applications that are starting from data curation and are ending with actual deployed system. It's very rare to see this, even in the biggest consortiums in physics. Sending off a model to train, on the cloud. You may not have the infrastructure locally to train a big convolutional network. And then after the model is being trained, you can diagnose what happened, see those images in 51 or the logs of training in TensorBoard. It's a standard computer vision pipeline, but for us, the actual application is say animal pose estimation. A pipeline starts with curating data, getting a bunch of images and annotating certain things about these images, like body part positions, or like if it's a dog or a cat or whatever. And then from there on, you need to take this data and use it as a training set for your model. You need to train your model, and then you want to do stuff with the model. First of all, see how it did in training, but also predict on new data or whatever. But usually these different segments are separated, and you have different scripts that do each of them, and it all sort of depends on some human in the loop that will try to trigger these events. But actually just chaining them together in one big operation that allows people, without local installations and without a zillion SSH tunnels and all that, allows you to label data, train a model, get the results back, predict things, wait for new data. That's on the engineering side of things, that is something that's almost impossible to do on your own as a researcher. Working with Lightning AI now allows us to have an actual product, not a model, but without having the entire so-called village you need to raise a product. As academics, as scientists, we didn't have a ton of experience with products that do deployment and flows and stuff like that. We're really not an experts in this field. We're more experts in the mathematics of the models and in the science that can be done with them. We explored a sort of basic cloud engineering, but that has been a huge effort that consumed a couple of years of work just orchestrating things. With much of the work that has been done specifically in the Lightning AI project, much of this engineering can now be sort of outsourced to Lightning. We can definitely see how much of what we attempted to do as individuals was taken care of very elegantly with Lightning AI. So we built this Lightning Pose app here. We have a landing page that sort of configures your project. You can configure it here from the browser and then go into the training tab and say which sort of command line arguments you want to use, how many epochs you want to use, or which losses. In our package we have multiple losses you can choose. Say we want to use a temporal loss for smoothness of motion, and then we press submit, and that job can be submitted either locally on your machine or session, or also it can be submitted to the cloud. Then immediately what we have here is we have, say, TensorBoard, or it can be any other framework like weights and biases, that immediately shows you in a different tab how your models are doing. So if I didn't have Lightning AI, I would have to do a lot of work on getting certain permissions, giving certain permissions to people, worrying a bit more about how I do the remote connections to the machines. One, say, for annotating data, another one would be for predicting, another one would be for training the model. Each may have a different instance type, which costs a different amount of money. So all of that, from the SSHing level to the installation level to the ability to see everything on the browser, and I think the ability to even change certain scripts as a flow and access certain state variables. For me, doing that would have meant stopping, research altogether and focusing on the engineering of such an app, maybe with other people helping me. But now what I can do is I can keep doing my research, I can keep obsessing with the models, and I can keep obsessing with the neuroscience, but I still have a working prototype of an app that's being deployed without having 5 DevOps people with me and stuff of that sort. So it's expanding my realm of possibilities.